Hey there YouTube, I'm Kitsu, this is the Kitsu Times. Welcome to my channel, welcome to a little bit of Sins of a Solar Empire 2. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about the Hoshiko Robotics Cruiser, which is the support cruiser for the tech faction. And this is probably the weakest of the three mainline support cruisers, but in spite of that, it's still a pretty good ship, and that's just because the support cruiser class is a really strong class. So anyway, let's take a look at this thing here.
My robot stands
So it's got
ready.
durability of 200, it's got 970 armor points, 1,235 hull points. It's not necessarily super durable, it's about the same as a carrier, but that still doesn't matter too much for this class of ship because, again, it's not really supposed to be frontline fighting. However, Hoshiko robotics cruisers are a very high priority target in later game fights. And kind of in mid-game fights as well. Early game fights, they might not necessarily be super important, but the Hoshikos are basically something that you're going to want to go after. And the fact that they're not super durable does hurt them quite a bit in that sense there. 350 antimatter does make it so that they're capable of casting spells. And for hidden statistics, we're looking at 25 armor strength and 750 maximum speed. Their maximum speed is not super slow, but it's not really going to let them get away when they're being chased by the things that are going to be chasing after these guys, which is, again, the frigate. Basically, the Cobalts, the Disciples, the Revestra Skirmishers, those things are all going to be going after these guys, and they're going to be able to take it out pretty quickly. So do have to worry a little bit about that kind of stuff there. So anyway, this doesn't have an attack. It doesn't have any carrier capacity. What's this thing all about there? Well, the Hoshiko is the healing unit for the tech faction. And technically speaking, it is the most powerful healing unit in the game as far as the actual healing units goes. It uses repair droids, got a 5-second cooldown, it's got a range of 3,000, it's got 30 antimatter cost, and it heals 20 damage per second, either hull or armor, and it has a duration of 15 seconds. This can be increased through research up to 30 per second, which is pretty good, but regardless, you're looking at a pretty humongous amount of damage that this is capable of healing. The problem with repair droids is that you can't overlap them. If you got repair droids from one Hoshiko cast onto your capital ship, it's going to be restoring that 300 hit points over over those 15 seconds, and there's nothing else that you can do. If you've got like 20 of these guys, it doesn't make it any faster, especially because the cooldown is 5 seconds. So you really only need like a small number of these guys to get the maximum value out of them. And what you're really getting out of this is like a sort of steady increase to ships that are not getting focused fire down. But you do have to sort of realize that you're not taking 20 damage per second on your frigates. Your frigates are taking like 400 damage per second, and they're going to be dead in about 5 seconds. And doing this is going to make it so that they last like a quarter of a second longer. So the repair droids are not super great for keeping things that are fragile alive, and it's much better at keeping like a larger number of beefier ships alive, or helps your frigates if they're getting hit by AoEs that are not capable of killing them. They're really good in that sort of situation. So it is a good ability, but it's not necessarily like the be all end all. I do think that like if you were to compare it to the other one, the Iconis Guardian's like kind of the be all end all because it like doubles the survivability of a frigate, of just a light frigate, but it also doubles the hit points of like a battleship. So it really just is the does everything kind of thing. And by comparison, the Visari one like reduces the damage that you take from everything by like 30% or something like that. I can't remember the exact number, but that one also works for everything. So this is the only one that I think is situational, and that's why I think it's the weakest of the support cruisers. For the other one, we got a recharger droids. This gives you 50 antimatter restored, costing 40, and you can cast it once every 5 seconds with a range of 5,000. So hypothetically, I think that you can actually use this to juggle back and forth between your Hoshikos, but I would just leave this on autocast in the events that I'm actually using this, so I don't really know how that behavior interacts. This is one of those ones where you could get really APM sweaty and just absolutely min-max the ever-loving hell out of it, making sure that exactly the right ships have exactly the right amount of antimatter at the moment that you need it to cast the spells that you're trying to cast. But I'm not that kind of player. I just leave it on autocast because it's a little bit too much for me otherwise. So still, though, this is really useful if you're relying on big caster-heavy capital ships in the later game. And also, I kind of find that by the time you get to really late game, even capital ships and even cruisers go down super fast. That means that the repair droid's just not going to cut it anymore. In those instances, you are more interested in the recharger droids because you're going to be spamming out a bunch of abilities from a bunch of capital ships that are probably all draining all their antimatter out very fast. And as a result of that, whoever can keep casting spells is going to be at a big advantage overall in that big fight there. So that's the abilities for this guy. Again, I do think it is the weakest out of the three, but I also think that it's a very good ship that you're going to want to incorporate into your mid to late game tech fleets. If you are going something crazy like an all like Caleb all Cobalt sort of strategy, then you're not going to really need this as much. It's more if you're leaning into something like the Javelises, if you're leaning into more of the Harkas. If you're going for that kind of composition, then these things become much more powerful. And the more capital ships that you've got in your roster, the more important the Hoshikos become. And if you've got lots and lots of capitals, then the Hoshikos become incredibly important. So anyway, let's take a look at their sort of upgrades here. So they do not start off with the antimatter. You get that at late tier 3, and that's a bit of a problem in some senses, but usually during these sort of earlier mid-game fights, you do often find that your capitals are running out of mana, so they're not capable of continuously casting their abilities that early on to the game. So having access to this would have been really nice during those smaller skirmishes where your capitals make up a much larger percentage of your forces because you just haven't been able to deathball yet. However, the heal is also more important during these early game skirmishes where you've only got, like, say, a small number of ships and they can't really focus them down by killing one instantly. And it takes forever to chip down and kill your capitals. In those instances, the Hoshikos become much better at keeping your ships alive and adding a lot more value in terms of like how much damage your ships are all taking. So I think that the Hoshikos are pretty good at this stage of the game, but the lack of recharger droids really hurts their abilities during that phase of the game. Once you get sort of late game, I tend to find that like you do spam out abilities on all your capitals and stuff like that, but there's other ways to sort of deal with antimatter drain that make it a little bit easier to deal with, and you sometimes want those instead of the Hoshikos because the Hoshikos are a little bit killable, and if they all die, then you don't want to be left without any casting just because your Hoshikos all died. Anyway, no weapons on these things, so we're not going to look at these at all. Now, I should point out for the engineering section here, the advanced metallurgy skill, the titanopheric plating, and the repel on premium armor, these are better for the Hoshiko than for other types of ships. Not just because it improves the durability of the Hoshiko itself, which it does, but more importantly because everything that they're repairing, when they're repairing the armor, if your armor strength is higher and you're taking less damage per hit to your armor, that fundamentally increases the value of a single point of armor. So when you restore 300 armor from the Hoshiko, the bonus that you're getting is bigger the more damage that is being reduced off of that armor value. So these things actually fundamentally improve the healing ability of the Hoshiko above and beyond what you would normally expect out of it. So I think that these abilities are really good for that sort of purpose there. Similarly, if you're focusing on those capitals, the reactive plating makes it so that those capitals take very little damage compared to what they would normally be taking. That means that those armor hit points that they've got become even better that they're getting back from the Hoshikos. So I think that this is a really good set of tech for that particular ship there. Now, you are forced to get the repair droid unlock, which does let you sort of repair with the retrofit bay, but it's also the unlock for the Hoshikos. This is also where you get the bonus repair for the repair droids. So this brings you up from 20 per second to 30 per second, which is, quite a decent boost to that. Still not enough to keep you alive if you're getting focused fired, but it still makes it so that you're capable of getting back into the fight a lot faster. The hit points bonuses, those are fine. There's nothing too special about those. And lastly, you've of course got the shield bonuses. Now, surprisingly enough, I think that the Hoshiko should have the 1000, but the Hoshiko Robotics Cruiser has 750 shields when you get the Cruiser Shield refit. This is a decent boost to its durability, making it a lot tougher to kill, but I do think that the Hoshiko should be the one that gets 1000, not the Javelis. The reason I think that is that I kind of feel like the higher tech ships should be the ones that get the shields, and the Hoshiko is definitely the more high tech ship. And the fact that it's a little bit flimsy does sort of make it a little bit of a liability because it is also a very high priority target, and it doesn't really have a great way to stop people from like just murdering it. Still, though, it is great to have an extra 750 hit points. That's a lot of extra hit points to just have. So nothing wrong with getting the cruiser shield refit. You're also going to want to get more of the sort of heavier ships if you're leaning heavily on the if you're leaning really heavily onto the Hoshikos, then you're going to want to get heavier classes of ships, so the Harkas, the Javelises, because you're going to want to get the most use as you can out of those Hoshikos if that's what you're going for. By contrast, if you're going for the lighter ships, it doesn't really matter if they've got the shield and you're repairing them with the Hoshikos. They're just probably going to die anyway because they're very flimsy. The improved shield arrays and the superior shield emitters, of course, they also work here. But it's a little bit less important, obviously, than the big bonus from the cruiser shield refit. So the other things that we can talk about are the civilian research. I don't actually think that these work as well for the Hoshikos. If we go up here, we can find things like the counter deployment, the labor negotiations, etc., etc. These don't matter. The Hoshikos, you don't need a whole ton of them. With the way that the cooldown and the duration of this is synced up, you can actually have 3 things on repair basically perpetually. And that means that you don't actually need to have like 20, 30 Hoshikos. That's way too many of these things. They're not like the Iconis Guardians, where having a lot more of them really ramps up the ability of your fleet. Just having enough to keep your key units healed up perpetually is going to make a big difference. And that's really all you sort of need. And then maybe a couple extra because a few of these are going to probably get killed. So being able to produce these really fast, not really the biggest bonus in the world for these guys. Lastly, of course, you've got the speed bonus from the culture, and that's kind of nice. It's good that they'd be able to run away a little bit more, but typically speaking, you just sort of keep these guys in the fight next to your capitals. If you want to, you can try and drag it so that they're further behind your capitals, using their abilities from the maximum distance away, which I think is probably a good idea, but they're still probably just going to get run down by frigates. That's probably what's going to end up happening to them. Ideally speaking, you have something that can stop those guys from getting in there and killing them all before you kill all the frigates, but yeah, I would not expect necessarily that the Hoshikos are capable of running away effectively, even with the speed boost. So anyway, that is our video for today. I hope you found this one enjoyable, and of course, as always, hope to see you guys all next time.